And even under normal circumstances, I don't touch people, so we're all good in that department. Okay. Good morning. Let's get going. We start a brand new unit, and I'm super excited. It's one of my favorite units, especially because I'm excited for next week because we got Will Smith Day coming up, and again, we're just going to try and see how it goes. So I've got a couple of clips that we'll use as a great visual of what we're going to talk about. So again, we're going to try something new and see if it actually plays next week. We'll see. All right, I'm going to share my screen so y'all see exactly what we're looking at for today. So we're going to hit bell ringer. We're going to go straight from bell ringer to, oh gosh, there we go. Straight from bell ringer to reminders. And this is what we got. How have workers' rights and working conditions changed today from what we've talked about already? Throw at me a couple of things. All right, especially because most of y'all have maybe got some kind of part-time job and you know what the deal is now. All right, hours, definitely.
Pay difference.
Somebody said what?
Pay difference.
Hey, thank you. Yeah, absolutely. Right? Because we've been talking about making a couple cents an hour versus, I don't even know. I don't even know anymore. I make $1 a day, so I don't even know what the minimum wage is.
It's $7.25.
$7.25. Okay. All right. Well, see, there you go. That is a huge, massive difference. But again, we do have to keep in mind that with pay changes, we've also experienced the standard of living changes right along with it, right? Like, you know, you can't look back at 1950 and look at gas prices being like 50 cents a gallon versus today, or no, it was less than that, like 15 cents a gallon, you know, and food and everything else, because as prices of things escalate, so has minimum wage pay. But the time period that we're talking about right now, there is no minimum wage, right? So just having a minimum wage in general is a big change. So we said hours, we said pay. What's another one? Yes, child labor laws. All right, and y'all gonna have to throw me a bone because I'm really not familiar with this either. At what age can you get a worker's permit?
15.
15. And then after that, aren't you limited on hours that you can work?
Yeah, so I work at Food Line and I was 17 years old. I had to have a worker's permit. Even I worked at Kickback Jacks, but it's also because like of I had to have a worker's permit there too. It's just because of alcohol or whatever. But since I worked at Food Line whenever I was 17, I was only limited to like 25 hours. But now that I'm 18, they don't really care no more.
Okay, all right. Well, yeah, but that's a great example. And I'm glad you brought that up because I know it does depend a lot on restaurants that serve alcohol, things like that too. Yeah, great example. Yeah, so definitely a lot of things. And safety, right? Like we can use school as a good example. What are examples of school safety measures that we do?
Are you talking about now with COVID?
Well, not specifically. I meant like we've got fire alarms, we've got fire extinguishers, we practice tornado drills and fire drills and lockdown, all the things, right? So safety measures obviously are put in place. Workers' compensation, you know, the idea of having sick leave and you know, all those things. Those are all changes that we have today that they did not even probably think about, right? You know, the biggest thing for them was pay. They just cared about pay. If they could get better pay, that's what they were happy with, right? So things have come a very long ways. Now, as soon as you get your bell ringer, and again, this is across the board. When you're here with me, you can choose to do it on paper or in Google Classroom, whichever floats your boat. You got either option. But we're going to get into, and this is something different that if, for those of you that have been online the whole entire time, and even up until this point, that we haven't had like an actual real lecture. So you get to actually see me full blown in action. And I got a ton of fun facts to throw at you if I can figure out how to fix my screen. What happened to it? There it is. There it is. There it is. I got some fun stuff for you. All right. So here is our brand new unit. All right. This, and I said it the other day, if anybody wants it, and again, I didn't print a ton in an effort to save copies. But if you guys want the printed packets, I will throw this at you. And again, anybody that's online that wants one, you can have it too. But this is in essence your textbook. And let me go ahead and look to see what page we're on before I throw it at you, so I know where to take a flip to. We are on page 49. And I think there might actually be, no, that's right. All right, so we are on 49. All right. Who else? Y'all good? Or?
I'm gonna wait because I still have something to put it in.
All right, so flip to 49, and that's where we're at. Okay. All right, so this is the Google slide to intro us into this unit. And occasionally you'll see me throw out some extra, all right? But we're good for right now. So here's, again, these are all quiz questions for what's coming for your next unit. New immigration versus old immigration. So old immigration is what most of you know and remember from American One, that is got the immigrants coming from Great Britain, from France, from Spain. That's what we call old immigration. So old immigration is coming from Western Europe, and that's what we're talking about when we say Western Europe. We're talking about Great Britain, France, Spain, Ireland, etc. But we're going to see a transition into what we call new immigration in 1890, which is coming from Eastern Europe. And if you want to make yourself a note, that's totally up to you. But when we say Eastern Europe, we're talking about Russia, we're talking about Poland, we're talking about Czechoslovakia, all right? That's Eastern Europe. So we see a change. We've got people from Eastern Europe, Asian immigrants. Throw out some examples of countries. Asian immigrants, where are they coming from? China. Yeah, China, India, Japan. Those are all examples of Asian immigrants. And we also have Hispanic immigrants coming in, South America, Central America, etc. Okay, so we see a shift in where immigrants are coming in during this time period. But here's what we got to talk about is where they're coming in at. I'll make sure I can get my slide to move with me as we talk about it. So where they're coming in at, they're checking in at either, and I'm going to move this over so you guys can actually hold on. I don't know if I can. Oh, look at this magic. I moved it. Okay. You're either going to check in at Ellis Island, which is over there not beside of the Statue of Liberty, pretty close to the Statue of Liberty. Anybody ever been? Ellis Island, Statue of Liberty? No? Okay. All right. It's all good. But that's where they're checking in at. They're checking in at Ellis Island. So Ellis Island is an immigration check-in station. But here's the kicker. Here's the kicker. It is only for lower class immigrants. If you're a wealthy upper class individual, then you stay on that nice, fabulous cruise ship. And anybody ever seen Titanic? And I hate that I even have to ask that anymore, but it's an old movie. So anyway, if you're wealthy, then you stay on your cruise ship and you just chill and you just relax. But if you're poor underclass and you're at the bottom of the boat, which is where they're going to put you in steerage, then you're the ones that are going to have to get on these little tiny rowboats, essentially, or it's ferry boats. I want to make it sound bad. It is bad, but anyway, they put you on a ferry boat. They take you out to Ellis Island, and it's a nightmare situation. All right, they're going to take your luggage, inspect your luggage. You have to go through this maze, and this is, you know what this makes me think of is like when you go to a theme park back in the old days, you know, like pre-COVID, I should say. When you went to a theme park and you're all like jam-packed in there together on top of each other, and they show like those wait lines, you know, 3 hours, right? But this is what it is. You're jam-packed in there waiting to get in for your opportunity to sign in, and you have to be approved. And on top of all that, they're going to do health screenings. Health screenings. Again, they don't want any kind of diseases being brought into the United States. And we'll talk about that process more in a minute. But that's how long this is. And here's another one. It kind of depends on who's even checking you in, because there are a lot of people that can't trace their records back to checking in at Ellis Island, because whoever they checked in with couldn't pronounce their name and just kind of sounded it out to the best of their ability. And, you might have been changed to John Brown just because they didn't want to have to figure out what your real last name is. But they do have a sign-in book. And, some people have better handwriting than others, right? Somebody argues that I should have been a doctor because my signature is just crazy. They pick on doctors, that they have these sloppy, signatures. But, if you can't tell what that signature says, you're not going to be able to spell out their name anyway. So they sign in. And if you make it through all that, the health screening, the check-in, the baggage, if you make it through all that, then you get to be put back on the ferry, sent back out to the cruise ship, and then finally make your way into New York Harbor. Here's another kicker. Believe it or not, there were children that were sent by themselves. And it's a lot of them had the parent write a note and pin the note to their jackets of who they are and where they're going. And it's just best of luck to you. Hope you make it. And if you were a child or a woman, you had to stay at Ellis Island until a male adult sent word for you that they were ready to pick you up at New York Harbor. Yeah. So again, ladies, if you were traveling by yourself or with kids, you had to wait until you had a male escort waiting for you. Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy, but it's true. And let's say they found something. Let's say that they did find that you had trachoma, which is an eye disease. They could either deport you and send you right back, and they're not making your family go if it's just you that's sick. They're going to send you back. Or they can detain you and put you on one of the cells in the basement of Ellis Island and let you wait it out by yourself to see if you get better enough to let them send you in. All right. So what about on the West Coast? Angel Island, San Francisco is where you're going to check in if you're coming from an Asian country, if you're coming from China, from India, from Japan, wherever, you're going to check in there. So if you can imagine, this is a big culture shock. And a lot of individuals are going to settle in these ghetto type ethnic neighborhoods, which makes sense. If you don't speak a lick of English and you get into New York Harbor and somebody tells you about what they call Chinatown, that's probably where you're going to go to try and find yourself and your family an apartment because you feel like you can find people that speak your same language. And we know that there's a Chinatown in New York as well as in California, a little Italy, all right, same thing. These are Polish neighborhoods. All these little ethnic communities started popping up because, again, if that's, you don't speak English, you're going to try and gravitate to find an area of people that have your same language, traditions, food, culture, etc. So we see that pop up as well. And of course, that's why we call the United States a melting pot. We are one of very few countries that have the biggest mix of cultures, ethnicities, religions, etc., which is another reason why we fuss and fight so much, right? I mean, it makes sense. Like you and your bestie don't get along 100%, right? And you like them, right? So imagine how we're trying to all mesh together these hundreds of different ethnicities and cultures and religions together. So yeah, we're not going to get along. Do I dream that there will be a day that we all will get along? Yes, it's a nice happy thought, right? But will it probably ever happen? Probably not, because it's human nature, so it is what it is, right? But anyway, that's a topic for another day. But here's an unfortunate thing that we have to talk about, and we still have this today: nativism. The idea that someone who is native born, like they were born and bred here in the United States, nativism is this feeling that those individuals feel like they're being shorted by all these newbies coming into the United States. Complaints of they're taking our jobs, they're keeping pay low because they're willing to work for whatever. Do we not still have people with those same feelings today? Yeah, absolutely, 100%. 100%. All right. And we are a nation of immigrants. What's the irony of it, though? What's the irony of it? That Native Americans who were here first, and some of them have been around since the Ice Age. back in Pangea, Ice Age, right? Whenever North and South America were all connected through the land bridge, the ice bridge that connected it to what is Europe, right? When, oh God, man, I can't even think. Russia and Alaska were connected through that ice bridge. And the idea was that they walked across on the ice bridge following the woolly mammoth, because that's what they were hunting. And that's how they populated, and we had Native Americans in North and South America, right? Like the irony of it is they are native to the Americas, but we treat them like they're not even citizens, you know? That a lot of Native Americans and Native American tribes don't even get citizenship until like the 1930s. Didn't that blow your minds? Like, anyway, I think it's crazy. But a lot of that is a topic for another day. Oh, I passed it. I didn't mean to. Hold on. Wait, there's a picture of the inspection. So they would quite literally strip you down, whether you're a man or a woman, it didn't matter. They would strip you down and do a health check in front of everybody. Like there is no privacy, all right? They don't really care. If they think you have something, they're gonna check you for it. So we got doctors and they're in a hurry. So a lot of times they're not really gonna take the time to make sure if they think you have something, they're not going to try and confirm it. They're just going to holler, hey, so-and-so's got this, take them away, all right, to wherever they say you need to go. Whether they think you need to be deported or thrown downstairs in the basement, it really doesn't matter. But they're not taking the time to check. And one of the things they check for, like I said, is trachoma. And it's the tool they use. You know when you go to the dentist and they use that hook, the sharp hook to like scratch away? Oh God, I have nightmares all the time about that thing. But anyway, it looks like that. It's a button hook they use. It's like hooked like that, but of course doesn't have the sharp end on it. But they would use it to pull up your eyelid so they could look up underneath your eyelid for the disease, because it was like red spots you could get on your eyeballs. But again, because of limited education about sanitation, if they were checking for that, and you know, I started over here with Willius and I checked her, and then I just went to the next person, next person, next person. Well, if she had it, guess what happened to everybody behind her? Yeah, I just spread it to everybody that was in line behind her, because again, we're not taking time to sanitize tools. We got thousands of people coming in on a daily basis. You know, if we have 17 million people coming in between a 30-year time span, it's a lot of people. And unfortunately, we're not really keeping sanitation at the upfront top priority. Okay, a couple more things and then we got to move on for today. All right, urban life again. We got millions of people coming in. Everybody's settling in their own little ethnic neighborhoods. And we are seeing actually a decline in farming during this time period. You know how we talked about farming is so rough because your paycheck depends on how your crop does? Well, if there's a drought, if there's a blizzard, if your whole crop gets ruined, whoops, then you're not going to make money. So a lot of farmers were giving up to come to the big cities, because as long as you showed up and did your job, you're going to get a guaranteed paycheck, right? Whereas farming is a gamble. You never know how your year's going to go and what your paycheck's going to look like. So a lot of farmers are leaving, coming into the big cities. Industrialization is going up. Think about all that cities have to offer. Even today, big cities have more options as far as living goes, right? They've got apartments, they've got department stores, entertainment, things like that. Here's a good example. Even Asheboro today, there are things that Asheboro doesn't have. And if you really want to do something, or if there's a certain restaurant you want, where would you probably go? Greensboro. All right, Greensboro. Yeah, for most of it.
Golden Waffle? What?
What?
Golden Waffle in Asheboro.
I didn't
You
say
said
that.
She
something
didn't
about
say that.
restaurants?
I just,
Oh, I thought, okay, I'm sorry. I misunderstood.
oh, okay. No, I definitely.
I would go to California,
I just,
obviously.
right? Yeah, that's a little bit of a jump if I wanted something to head to California. But
They
yeah,
got everything.
I see where your train of thought is going. Yeah, but I'll just say for me, like if we want a nice dinner, you know, like Cabuto's is one of my top favorites. I just imagine having it right now. But anyway, so you know what I'm saying? Like if there's a certain store that you want, a certain restaurant that you want, yeah, even, you know, Asheboro doesn't have it even now, right? So again, imagine if you're in this time period, if you want something, the only way you're gonna be able to get it is to go into a big city, right? A big city is the only place you're gonna have the very first department stores, restaurants, multiple options as far as living arrangements, and being in an apartment building, even though, oh my goodness, even though during this time period, we do not yet, yes, electricity has been invented. We have that capability, but right now it has not been put out there besides people that have the money to put it in their house or business or building, and indoor plumbing is not there yet. So you can imagine what these big cities smell like, because we don't have cars, right? We're using horse and buggy. So a lot of these cities have not quite yet jumped on the train with having sanitation pickup. So we got lots of horse poop everywhere. We have, if you're like on the top floor of your apartment building, it's the middle of the night, you really got to go, but you don't want to run outside, put your shoes on to go to the outhouse. You might use your pot, right? And do your thing. And you're just going to take that pot, and you're just going to throw it out your window. So it's not raining, ladies and gentlemen, a lot of times, you know what I'm saying? So yeah, human feces and bodily stuff is going to be on sidewalks and roads, along with, again, horse stuff. Okay. So people's trash, we have not created a trash pickup system yet. All of this is in the process of being developed, and people are dying of disease, there was something else I was going to say. I lost my thought, but anyway, because again, trash pickups, we got trash everywhere. So if you can just fathom what these cities look like and smell like right now before we get all of that up and going, it's rough. The last thing we're going to stop with today before we move on is a look at the difference in the have and the have-nots. So the haves are your upper class living in their penthouse apartments versus what we call these tenement apartments. And tenement apartment buildings are apartments that have been put up almost overnight because we don't have building codes and restrictions. And they're almost like death traps because, again, they don't have to be inspected. These people that are just looking to make a buck are trying to build it as fast as possible and get as many people living in there as fast as possible to start collecting those rent checks. And so accidents happened all the time. And because they could, they were charging as much as they wanted on these apartments. And sometimes people had to live in there with like 2 or 3 families just to pay the rent in a 1-bedroom apartment, which is what this is. The little girl that you see, that's the 1 bedroom that's back there. No indoor bathroom, all right? And even when they started putting indoor plumbing in a lot of these apartment buildings, you had to share it with everybody that is on your floor. It's kind of like, the hallways, right? If the history hallway only had, for students and teachers on the history hallway, we only had 1 bathroom, and that we all had to share it. You couldn't go anywhere else, all right? That is what is coming still. Before you get used to the idea of having a bathroom in your own apartment, like today we're like, oh my God, if your house doesn't have more than 1 bathroom today, then like we're questioning your life choices. You know what I'm saying? Versus them, right? I'll tell you a quick story, super quick. Okay, I love my husband, but he a lot of times has stomach related issues, and I am, praise Jesus, thankful that we have multiple bathrooms in our house for that reason. You know what I'm saying? So there was one incident when we first got married, just the 2 of us, 1 bathroom in this house that we were renting, and we had gone out for dinner that night. and we had chosen a favorite restaurant. For whatever reason, the food just did not settle right with both of us. And when we got home, we both needed to use the restroom at the same time. And let me just say that what unfolded after that is very close to a scene in the movie Bridesmaids, if you've seen that movie. What unfolded was a very bad situation for both of us, and we agreed not to talk about it even to this day, what happened that night, because we were limited to the one restroom, and that's all I will say about that. That's all I will say. Okay, but anyway, so we're thankful for technology and all these new advancements, all right? But here's another thing, and this is what I'm going to stop on, and then we'll have to finish later. What else are we going to have to work on? Creating a police department and a fire department and things like that that can keep up with these growing cities. Accidents are going to happen, and there is an unfortunate accident. There's a fire that takes place at one of the businesses, and it's unfortunate. When the fire takes off and it ends up taking over like the 8th, 9th, and 10th floor, when the fire department gets there, the ladder they have is too short to reach the top floors. And the women that are in that factory either end up choosing to jump to their death or burn alive, because again, we don't have the right equipment and the technology during this time period. So it's very unfortunate. Ooh, hey, think about this. Think about this with police during this time period. There's no cars. So there's no need to have what? What do you have to legally be out on that road driving a car? Driver's license. So if we don't have cars, we don't have a need for driver's license. There is no such thing. There is nothing that you are walking around with that has your photo ID on it. So if you kill somebody in this town and they're trying to track you down, all right, just move to the next town, change your name, move to the next town, and keep doing your thing. So police departments are having a pretty rough time during this time period as well. So stop there. Here's what we're going to, okay? We're going to intro into your IDs and SQs. I've got the paper copy if you want it. If not, you can pull it up in Google Classroom. We're going to look at section 1 to intro into it for today. We're going to talk for just a second about your immigration activity that we'll spend time doing tomorrow. And then I'll make sure you guys don't have any questions. All right, so anybody want the paper copy of it? All right, let me grab that super quick. And I got all of it. So if you want the IDs as well as the immigration activity, I'll throw that at you super quick.
There's something in the chat as well.
Okay.
I'll just let you know.
All right, there's actually 3 things. So the IDs, the immigration activity, and the story. You want all 3? Sure. Okay. And you might want for everybody to have a paper copy of the story, just because when it copied, it copied super light. What about you? Okay, all right.
I've done what did you say we needed?
So IDs and SQs, immigration activity, and the story.
I'll take the story.
Okay.
I've already done the immigration activity.
Got it. Fantastic. Yeah. All right. All 3. All right. 1, 2, and 3. Okay. All right. So we're gonna do 2 things, and then we're gonna work on it. Okay. All right. So let's look at Chapter 13, IDs and SQs. We're gonna look at section 1. That's what we introed into today, and then we'll talk about your immigration activity real quick. All right, number 1 says, why did Europeans come to the United States? Just throw some reasons. Why would anybody want to come here? What do we got? What do we offer?
Jobs.
We offer jobs. What else? Land. What else?
Freedom.
Freedom. That's good enough. We could say more. Let's just come up with a couple. Jobs, freedom, land, just to name a few. All right, 2, where did most immigrants settle in the late 1800s? Most of them, not all, are going to go where? What has the most opportunities, choices, all the things?
Ellis Island.
Oh, Ellis Island is the check-in station. It's not where you want to live.
Oh, York?
Yeah.
No.
Big cities. Yeah, big cities. Big cities for sure. New York, San Francisco, Chicago, big cities. That's where you got jobs, you got apartments, you got businesses. All right, 3. We didn't talk about it a whole lot yet, but it's in the notes. What caused the increase in Chinese immigration in the 1860s? It is jobs, but specifically, this is actually from last unit too, specifically jobs working on what? Yeah, on the railroad. So jobs specifically on the railroad, but also pay, even though you think our pay wasn't good enough, it was better than what they were getting. And number 4, the reasons nativists opposed immigration to the US. And again, this really hasn't changed today. It really hasn't. What are reasons why nativists are upset with new immigrants? What'd they say?
They were your first.
True, they're there. Yeah, yeah.
Jobs.
Yeah, but they're complaining, yeah, about taking jobs, keeping pay low. Taking jobs, keeping pay low, overcrowding cities. Again, just give me just a couple explanations.
And taxes.
Yeah, that's actually more of an issue today than it would be back then. But yeah, you're still right though. You're still right. All right, let's really quickly look at these IDs before we talk about your immigration activity, and we'll move on. All right, steerage is just talking about the bottom of the boat. Steerage, bottom of the boat. And again, if you've never seen Titanic, just watch it just to be able to get a visual of what we're talking about, the difference in class, status, and opportunities. Ellis Island, a lot of these are actually quiz questions for next week. Ellis Island is the check-in station on the East Coast. Check-in station on the East Coast. And then it's on your list. Which one is the check-in station for the West Coast?
Angel Island.
Yeah, Angel Island. Angel Island is the check-in station for the West Coast. And then Jacob Reese we'll talk about on Monday. Jacob Reese is a photojournalist. Photojournalist. And last but not least, number 9, Chinese Exclusion Act. We stop Chinese immigration for 10 years. And again, I'll explain why next week.
For how long?
10 years. Yeah. All right. We're going to hit the button on the IDs and SQs. We're going to hit the pause button. Did anybody miss any of those on that? On that 1 through 9. Everybody's okay? All right. All right. Super fast in a hurry, and then we're going to move on. We're doing some stuff. I mean, giving you time to work on stuff. That's what I mean. All right, immigrant experience. So there's 2 things that you're looking at, and we're going to look at these 2 things from now until Monday, looking at Ellis Island and looking at the Statue of Liberty, okay? All right, so on your immigrant experience, what you're doing, and I just think it's fun, you're going to do a passenger record search. And it says to enter your last name, but it really depends. Some people will put in their last name and nothing will come up. So if you have other family members' last names, like if you tried your dad's last name, try your mom's last name, or try a grandparent's last name, or whatever, you know, just to see what pops up. So for example, yeah, Walker is my married name, but if I put in Walker, and I've done it before, oh my God, there's just hundreds of thousands of names that pop up. All right, I just pick one. Now I did do a genealogy research on genealogy.com because I love that stuff. So I actually would know somebody to look for on that list if I wanted to find a family member, but that's not necessary. Just pick one. and then answer the questions. Now, when it pops up, and I apologize, I don't have this pulled up for me to give you an example, but when it pops up, there's like a little italics I that'll pop up beside their name. If you click on that, it'll give you more information. For some of them, there's some that it might not say hardly anything, but for a lot of them, it'll tell you where they're coming from, where they settled, what year they came, the age. Let's see. Yeah, so those are some of the questions that you're going to be answering. And then part 2 is answering questions about Ellis Island. And actually part 2, those questions about Ellis Island, you can already answer from what we just talked about. It's not really necessary to go any further unless you just want to peruse the websites. Ellis Island and Statue of Liberty are both under the operation of the National Parks Service. That's who runs it and operates the websites and everything. So that's what you can look at to answer these questions. Why was it built? When did it open? We didn't talk about when it opened, but we said it is an immigrant processing station. Who were the first immigrants to be processed? We didn't talk about that, but what happened to Ellis Island in 1897 as they get ready to like shut it down. It's no longer today. Today it's a tourist attraction. We don't use it for immigrant processing anymore. So that's not when it stopped though. So anyway, I don't want to give it all to you because that takes away the fun of doing some research. All right, but that's it. I'm going to give them time to work. Anybody in here, questions, comments, and or concerns before I let you go? No? Okay. All right, ladies and gentlemen, if you are on the Zoom, that is all for today, and I won't see you on Zoom tomorrow, so happy Friday. Bye.